Harihi Om. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. As we have seen, Lord Sri Krishna, as he begins his instruction to Arjuna, and through Arjuna to all of us, starts with a bang. In the first 15 verses, 11 through 25 of this chapter 2, I said he starts with a bang, for rather than instructing Arjuna on his duty, on Swadharma, on Karma Yoga, which is what actually fits into Arjuna's scenario, Sri Krishna talks about the imperishable nature of every one of us. The soul is indestructible, is the message that he conveys, and we are presently taking a look at that very portion. And at some of these verses, Adi Shankaracharya provides very profound insights into Advaita Darshana. One example was verse number 16, where, as per Shānkara Bhāshya, the verse meant nothing else than the absolute reality, Brahman alone existing, everything else being a mere appearance, not only upon Brahman, but of Brahman. If you think of the universe as something that appears upon Brahman, you will have a confusion that here is Brahman and this appearance came from somewhere. And then all theories of what is the cause of that appearance, is there some stuff of which that appearance is made, etc., arise. Therefore, as we advance in Vedanta, we realize that Brahman alone, in a manner of saying, appears as the universe. And that universe includes the entity who is proposing all these theories. The student, the teacher, the critic, and the champion, all of us are part of that entire domain of appearance, which is an expression of Brahman alone. This has to be dealt with great delicateness, and therefore no wonder Adi Shankara takes every opportunity to provide important clarifications to this matter of Advaita Satyam. After that 16th verse, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, and so on, where we had fairly long commentary by Bhashyakara Sri Shankaracharya. In the 17th verse, the very next one, we saw how Sri Krishna emphasizes the nature of the soul which does not get destroyed. Avinashi. Vinasha means coming to an end. Avinashi tu tadvidhi. Yena sarvamidam tatam. We saw the basic meanings quickly last time. Avinashi means that which does not perish, And every little word has to be understood, and unless some rare occasion, every single syllable in the Gita shlokas, in the Upanishads, has certain significance. On some rare occasions, a particle, a single syllable could be a filler in the poetic construction of the verse, of the mantra or shloka, and it may not carry much meaning as such. It neither adds any meaning nor subtracts any meaning. There are occasions like that, but I'm saying this because in this shloka, number 17, Avinashi tu, what is this tu? Avinashi tu tadvidhi. Bhashya touches upon it. Tu shabdaha asataha visheshanartaha. Visheshana, if you just go for an translation, is adjective. So anybody who reads the Bhashya hastily would say, oh, so tu is an adjective to asat. This is the problem with just translation. One needs to know the inner meaning of every word. Visheshana, it's all right to translate it as adjective. 9 out of 10 situations, it does work. But actually, what does an adjective mean? When I request my younger brother to get one of my hats, we are going for a walk, get my hat, and there are three or four. And then I say to my younger brother, get me that brown hat. What does the adjective brown do? The adjective brown in the expression brown hat separates the brown one from the white one, the blue one, and the black one. Right? So an adjective actually distinguishes. In that manner, tu shabdaha asataha. Asataha here is Panchami Vibhakti. From, in the sense of from. So tu is to indicate that what we are calling indestructible stands apart from asat. We are not talking of asat, the false, anymore. Asat was touched upon in the earlier shloka. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. Asataha visheshanartham. To distinguish this particular hat from the black and the white and the blue ones, I say brown hat. Likewise, to distinguish this imperishable reality of the soul, the word tu is used so that we stand apart from millions of things which fall in the camp or the category or the genre of asat. Asataha visheshanartaha tadvidhi vijanihi. Arjuna, please know, even as you get ready for the war, please know there is a higher point of view where no one dies. Yena sarvam idam tatam. This entire creation, this entire universe, entire space, time, and things in space and time are tatam vyaptam, covered, pervaded. Space also is pervaded. In our ordinary sense of understanding, space is everywhere. But Brahman or Atman is one notch above space. In the philosophical hierarchy, don't imagine literally above, meaning space wise. When we say there's a bird flying above that electric wire, so bird being above the electric wire is a matter of space, what we call in mathematics the z coordinate, x, Y, and Z, vertical. So, though we use this language, Brahman is above space. It is not in the Z coordinate. For Z, X, Y, all of them make space. And Brahman being above space cannot be within space. A bird being above the electric wire is within space. Brahma, in terms of sukshmatva, in terms of subtlety, is above space. Vyaptam sadakhyena brahmana sa akasham. Acharya Shankara, long ago, representing the wise rishis, had this insight that even space is of questionable reality. In the 20th century, we had Einstein coming over and saying space is not absolute. And he talked of space being curved, time being relative. Time slows down, time speeds up. Unthinkable for most people. Likewise, or going a step further, the Vedanta talked about space being not absolute. Sa akasham, everything including, sa means sahita, everything including akasha is pervaded by Brahman, which is called Sat. In Upanishads like Chandogya, especially that sixth chapter where Tattvamasi appears, the word used to refer to Brahman is Sat. Father Uddalaka says to the son Shvetaketu, Sad eva saumya idam agra asit. Sat. Sat akhyena. I believe in some versions it is put as Vishnu akhyena. These versions, Pata Beda, Pata means a reading, is something that you come across again and again in scriptural study. Sometimes the original scripture itself has two versions, and many times the commentary by Adi Shankara has several readings. In somebody's hands, you have a text reading Sat Akhyena, named or called Sat, and another person says, in my book it is Vishnu Akhyena. So, well, Vishnu also is all pervading. Vishnu, the word meaning, is something that is everywhere. However, in this context, Sat Akhyena is a better version. Akashena iva ghatadayaha. Space pervades all the objects such as pot, ghata, pot. Millions of pots anywhere and everywhere have, in the first place, space running through them. Space is in them and the pots are in space. And likewise extended. Brahman is in space. In fact, space appears and disappears in Brahman. The Vedantic perspective is when we go to deep sleep, space disappears. In ordinary thinking, and much of modern science too would say that space doesn't disappear, we disappear, or we don't see anything. There is space, there is everything. Our house, our family, and my bank balance will remain. When I wake up, I can go and draw some money, and so on. But Vedanta says this is one of the most primary, long standing conditionings. A man may get frightened. That means all this is false. My bank balance is false. What is there to get frightened? Don't stop at half truth. Bank balance is false, Vedanta says, and your fear is more false. You don't need money, you don't need food, you don't need anything. You don't need anybody's love, you don't need anybody's support. You are the support of everything. Then the students say, now we have to think what this is all about. So one has to understand Vedanta in its total relevance, not take it from just one narrow angle and then panic or make judgments. Akashena yatha gatadayaha vyapyante, just as space pervades pots and practically all objects, likewise here too. Brahma pervades even space. Vinasham, adarshanam, abhavam, two synonyms are given by Bhashyakar. If you patiently read the Bhashya, then that itself improves your Sanskrit. Vinasha is adarshana, something that is no more visible. Darshana is being visible. Abhava, something that which no more is. Bhava means to be. Abhava, when something ceases to be. And the last line for the basic shloka is Avyayasya. Avyaya is navyeti, that which does not change, that which does not undergo any variation. What is meant by variation? Upachaya, apachayau. Upachaya is gathering, like in the case of a physical body, putting on pounds. Apachaya is losing. Like in the example of the physical body, somebody loses pounds. Need not be physical body only, anywhere and everywhere. That is avyaya. Tasya avyayasya. Now, Sri Shankara provides a little bit of incisive comments. Na etat sadakyam brahma svena rupena vyeti. When we say Brahma is avyaya, unchanging, what does it mean to say it is not changing? In itself, it doesn't change. What is meant by changing in itself? You see, all change can be in two spheres. When you say, my cousin, oh, I met him after 7 years and he has changed so much. One thing could be this cousin of mine could have gone so lean. Olden days he was so well built, but now so lean and looks half the weight as before. That is called Swatmani. In himself, in his own physical being, he has reduced or somewhere else increased. But such a possibility does not exist with regard to Brahman. Logically, Bhashyakara says, Niravayavatvat. Avayava means parts. A part is an avayava. Like you have a car and the main body, the engine, the seats inside, the steering wheel, these are all the parts, avayava. So something that has parts is sa avayava. When you do the sandhi, savayava. And something that has no parts at all, this very nature is that it has no parts. It is nir-avayava, niravayava, niravayavatvat. And when something has no parts at all, where is the question of growing bigger or becoming less? Because growing bigger and becoming less is necessarily losing parts or adding parts. Dehadivat. Therefore, when I say my cousin has changed, it could be in his body. He has lost not parts but weight. Lost his, body mass, or he has gained. Second kind of change is extending the same example. My cousin has changed. Olden days he was so poor and was really looking miserable all the time. But he is now such a one very, very wealthy man. So what is the change in him now? Not in his own physical existence or body, but in his wealth, what he has. That is the second part. Bhashyakara mentions na api atmiyena. Here atmiya means what belongs to one. Atmiyam graham, atmiyam dhanam, atmiya yaha janaha. You have your people, your money, your house, your car. Something that belongs to you is atmiya. Atmiya abhavat. There is nothing that belongs to Brahman. You see, Advaita that way is the easiest. When Brahman alone is, everything is simple. When there is nothing other than Brahman, you can't call anything as belonging or anything as not belonging because there is nothing other than Brahman. Atmiya abhavat. Yata devadattaha dhanahanya vyeti. I already mentioned wealth is something that belongs to you, dhana. So there is this man, Devadatta, his wealth reduces, dhana hani. Then we do say, Devadatta is not the same as you knew him 2 years ago. He is, he has undergone or suffered dhana hani. Natu evam brahma vyeti. No such thing, no such change can take place with regard to Brahman. अतः अव्ययस्य अस्य ब्रह्मणः विनाशं न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति. Arhata by itself separately in Sanskrit and many Indian languages I am sure means yogyata. Arhata means yogyata, fitness, eligibility, worthiness. But when you use arhati with the expression, you know, kartum, kartum means to do. Bhoktum means to eat. Upaveshtum means to sit. Or sthatum means to stand. Vaktum means to speak. So these are called words ending in tum. Tumun is the pratyaya. A quick grammar point here. When you use arhati with a verbal derivative ending in tumun, the meaning changes. What it means then is one cannot afford to, one is not able to, or it is not appropriate for one to, depending on the context. The present context is one is not able to. Nobody is able to, or nobody can destroy Brahman. Na kaschit arhati Brahmanaha vinasham kartum. In the Gita, having said this grammar, some other places, Arjuna would request Sri Krishna, he would say, you alone are fit to clear my doubts. Samshayam chetum arhasi. There it is not only you are able to clear my doubt, but also you ought to, you should. It's a request. It is pointing out that you alone can help me. Please help me. Therefore, coming back, na kaschit kartum arhati, and here is the punchline to which I made a quick reference in the last class itself. Bhashyakara goes to the extent of saying, when I say nobody can destroy this Atma or Brahma, which are one, I mean even God cannot destroy. So if you think Drona will be destroyed, Bhishma will be destroyed, even God cannot destroy Bhishma or Drona. Now you would be taken aback. Is there something that God cannot do? Yes, God cannot destroy the Atma. Why? Ishvaraha api vinashaitum na shaknoti. Because we are talking not of the personality, not of the image, not of the appearance, but what everyone, Bhishma, Drona, you, me, or Tom, Dick, or Harry, everyone is the pure self. Atma hi Brahma, Swatmani cha Kriya Virodhat. There are two very powerful expressions here. One is Ishvaraha api Brahmanaha Atmanaha va Vinasham kartum na shaknoti. Even God cannot destroy any one of us. Even an ant, even a crawling creature. When you look at the ant as no other than Brahma, why? That is the very existence of Ishvara too. There are no two existences, Ishvara's existence and Jiva's existence. There are no two such existences at the highest level. Once you come down to expressions, appearances, and so on, a mother sees two of her sons acting in the play, in theater. And her first son is a beggar, and the second son is the king in the play. And the king is making some gifts to the beggar. Well, the mother sitting in the first row among the audience, spectators, takes the king to be the king, the beggar to be the beggar, and enjoys the play. But she knows in her heart of hearts, she knows very clearly by heart, even in her thoughts, that the king and the beggar are both her sons. So it's a matter of on what level we are talking. When we say Jiva and Ishvara are both one existence, no insult is meant to Ishvara, but it is to point out that ultimately truth is one. One truth expresses as many. No Advaita Vedanti, please note, when he or she goes to a temple, will step inside saying, God, I have come and you know you and I are one. You understand? Nobody would say that. God is God and we are devotees. Even Shankaracharyas of Sringeri or Kanchi and all those, or even enlightened people, it is said when Arati was made to Lord Shiva, Arunachala, and it was brought to Sri Ramana Maharshi. Maharshi was established in Advaita Vedanta, established in oneness of all that is. He took the arati as any devotee would do and smiled and made a comment. Oh, the father has come to the son. Maharshi Ramana always looked at Arunachala Shiva as his father and he looked at himself as the son. Some of the Christian devotees or devotees from Europe and others who were around Maharshi Ramana must have felt very good about it because in Christianity we have the God called Father, Father in heaven, and Jesus Christ is the Son. So, for devotees of Maharshi Ramana with some Christian influence, it can be comforting to look at Shiva as Father and Brahmana as the Son, comparable with Jesus Christ Himself. Anyway, these comparisons have their own merits as well as problems. So, the idea is there is no mixing up of issues. The truth, the ultimate existence of everyone is one. There are no two. Ishvara himself is Bhishma. Ishvara himself is Drona. Ishvara himself is the saint and the sinner. It is his play. Swatmani Kriya Virodha. That's the last line of this Bhashya on verse number 17. And I would say this is yet another powerful punchline. What is Swatmani Kriya Virodha? Translated literally, it means there is never an action possible by something upon itself. What is meant is, with my right hand, I can catch my left hand. With my right hand, I can catch my nose. I can touch my ear. If any of you can do so. But suppose you ask me, sir, with your right hand, please hold your right hand. Oh, with my right hand, how do I hold my own right hand? If it were possible, that is Swatmani Kriya, Swa Atmani, action upon itself. Swatmani Kriya Virodhat. Virodha means there is contradiction, it's not possible, right? All of you must have heard of that little story where in a family people were saying what they are capable of. Somebody said he can sing, somebody said he can dance, somebody said he knows a lot of mathematics. But a little girl said, to her own father, all of you have said big things, but I can do something. Where, addressing her father, she said, even you cannot do. You may know much more, you may have much more power, but you cannot do something which I'll show now. And the father was surprised. What is it that this little girl can do which I cannot do? And to make the long story short, the girl, with a smile, ran up to the father and sat on his lap and then said, Appa, can you sit on your own lap? The father cannot sit upon his own lap. The father can sit on his son's lap, or maybe even this little daughter's lap, though the space is less. So that is Svatmani Kriya Virodha. Put aside all the examples, illustrations, etc. What is meant is when Brahma is one without a second, Ekam Eva Advitiyam, and that Brahma alone is Bhishma and Drona, Yudhishthira and Bhima, anyone and anybody, then in that one, how can there be act of killing? Because to kill, there has to be A that kills and B that is killed. So there has to be duality. Where there is no duality and there is only one, an action upon itself is not possible. In the world, in lay language, in ordinary parlance, we sometimes do use the expression, he hit himself. So that is Atmani Kriya. But technically, when you say he hit himself, he took a hammer and hit his own head. So the hammer, the hand, and the head are separate. But in ordinary language, we say he blamed himself. He called himself a fool. He made a fool of himself, etc. So he acting upon himself is an expression in ordinary language. Technically, there is no possibility of X acting upon X itself. X can act on Y can act on Z, and so on. So, with such little expressions of logic, Shankara's commentary sharpens our intellect. And before proceeding, let me make a remark. In Jnana Yoga, it is very helpful to be clear of many of these things, clear about many of these things, because the negation, neti neti, many of you know the popular expression, neti neti. The negation is facilitated by being extremely clear on a lot of these issues. Who I am and what I am not. have to be so clear that dismissing what I am not, that is what neti neti is all about. You need to dismiss what you are not. And that is not a child's play. Please do not think that this neti neti is a very independent, separate spiritual practice. It is, on the contrary, it is the blossoming, it is the culmination of a whole lot of Vedantic study. Therefore, traditional teachers would very much insist that you must study the Vedanta in all its detail. That is one of the debates that goes on between the camps of scholars, Shastris, who say Shastra has to be studied. Go to Kashi, study Sanskrit first for 12 years. They say that language. They speak that language. Whereas the camp of saints, sadhus, mahatmas, and so on, they say study a little of essential scripture and then pray, meditate, ask yourself, who am I? Camp A sometimes makes fun of Camp B, and Camp B makes fun of Camp A. And you and I, standing at a distance, are perplexed. We respect both the Shastris and the Mahatmas. We look at Shastris, it seems that we have to spend hours and hours daily poring over our scriptures. You look at Mahatmas, it seems we have to put aside books and close the eyes and meditate, pray, and so on. So, where is the truth? Well, carry on both, and be true to your Swadharma. To some of us, much scriptural study is not, as they say, our cup of tea. And so you don't have to force yourself. And to some of us, much prayer, much meditation, much anushtana doesn't go well with us. What to do? All right. That's what I mean by be true to yourself. Then things will fall in place. Bhagavan Bhashyakara Sri Adi Shankaracharya now leads us to the 18th verse with the Sangati. Kim punaha tad asat yat swatmasattam vyabhicharatiti. Vyabhichara, vyabhicharati means changing loyalty. So, in many Indian languages, you know, if a husband is not loyal to his wife, he goes to other women, that is called vyabhichara. So is the case if a wife is not loyal to her husband, then she is called vyabhicharini and so on. Vyabhichara is used in that context in many languages, but that is one application. The basic meaning of vyabhichara, vyabhicharati, is not staying true to its own nature. Shankara says, asat, by definition, he had given that definition before while commenting on verse number 16. Asat, the false, by definition, is that which doesn't stay true to the nature which we thought belongs to it. Like a chameleon. The chameleon, that creature, we look at it, it is green, and then we say to a little young daughter of ours, hey, see that green creature. By the time she sees, she is a bit slow. She, where, Appa, where is that? It is now no more green, it is red. So chameleon is an example for satata vyabhichara, changing colors. When somebody deceives us, we say to him, don't we? Oh, now I know you in your true colors. The colors that you showed before were false. So Acharya Shankara connects it this way. Let us know more about asat, which we need to negate, which changes its colors. The 18th shloka. Very simple, pretty shlokas. Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashinaha aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Though simple and pretty, charming and graceful, it has its own depth, as we shall see soon. Adi Shankara goes to not only a little longer commentary, slightly longer, but more than the length, I would admit, he makes certain remarks which even somebody like me finds a little bit of a hard nut to crack. What he says in his commentary on this 18th shloka are not easy to understand. There is certain philosophical subtlety and, as I said, tremendous depth in it. And what is more, it's not just for enjoyment of philosophy, it has great bearing on understanding Vedanta properly. It has a great bearing on our getting free from the shackles of our own thought created bondage. Our bandhana is because of erroneous judgment. With regard to the question, who am I? Who am I? All of us carry a certain erroneous judgment. My favorite joke here is I have been saying this for 20 years. Somebody attended my classes on who am I for years. And when I had to leave that town, as I was transferred to some other place, I asked that man, you have heard so much of the wisdom of who am I, Koham, from me. Tell me honestly, what do you think you are when you inquire? He said, Swamiji, don't ask me that. I said, why? Tell me. I won't tell anybody, though I'm telling in every class without telling his name. And finally he said, your classes have been wonderful, thank you. But somehow, even if I am asked at 2 a.m. at midnight, somebody wakes me up and says, who are you? I am unable to say I am Brahman or Atman. I am unable to say I am Sachidananda. All right, what do you say? What answer comes to you? He says, even at 2 a.m., when I ask who am I, the answer that naturally comes to me is, I am Vishalakshi's husband. His wife's name is Vishalakshi. So, apart from the humor, I am Vishalakshi's husband. Humor is okay. What is meant is thought. In that man, uh, above all, he is many things. He is son to his father. He is an executive at some company. He is owner of a nice house in his town. A million things. But above all, his being the husband of that enviable lady Vishalakshi is holding him. It is thought. So thought has tremendous power. You and I are in the grip of thoughts. And that thought is an expression of avidya, of erroneous perception. Adi Shankara calls it asamyak darshana. Samyak darshana is seeing rightly, asamyak darshana. When you don't see yourself rightly, then you say, I am Vishalakshi's husband, or I am not rich enough, or my only problem is health. Vedanta is okay, but my health is not good. So, somewhere, there is a Samyak Darshana. Samyak Darshana, to bring the topic to an end, is like Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra had 8 deformities in his body. Ashtavakra. And yet he saw himself as the supreme truth, Brahman. Even if everybody in the court of Janaka laughed looking at him, it did not deter him, it did not bother him, it did not disturb him, for he was anchored in the understanding I am Sat Chit. That is Samyak Darshana. Asamyak Darshana is to say, I have all the knowledge of Vedanta. I have read even Brahma Sutras. But why do I have these deformities? I wish my hands were a little okay and legs were a little okay. I wish I was looking a little better so that the women of the town would look at me and, wow, what a wonderful, handsome man. If there are such thoughts reigning supreme in one's consciousness, small c, then that is asamyak darshana. Ashtavakra is an inspiring example of samyak darshana. Against all odds, he was seeing his existence as the one existence in the entire universe. Antavantaha, simple word, antaha vinashaha vidyate yesham te antavantaha. Antavan is singular, antavantaha is plural. If you have a lot of money, then you as a single person is dhanavan. There are 5 of you, moneyed people, dhanavantaha. Dhanavantaha, those who have money. Antavantaha, those that have an end, those who die, those who perish. Reference is to the bodies. Yata mragatrashnika adau. There may be another version which is better. Mragatrashnika udaka adau. Doesn't make much difference, but as a scholarly tippanakara writes, this Mragatrashnikodakadau is a better pata, better reading. What is Mragatrashnika and what is Mragatrashnikodaka? Mragatrashnika is the mirage on the desert sands. Udaka is water. Mragatrashnika udaka adau sadbuddhihi anuvritta pramana nirupanante vichidyate satasya antaha. The Tippanakara is right in this way. If it were said Mragatrashnika alone, then when right understanding dawns upon you, the mirage doesn't disappear. That the idea of there is water, that disappears. Therefore, it's good to mention Udaka. Mragatrashnika Udaka Adau. Mragatrashnika Udaka is the water that appears in a mirage, comes to an end, Antavan, Antavat. It has an anta. Water comes to an end. Therefore, a slight technicality there. Mragatrashnikodakadau is a better version. Mragatrashnikadau, in example of mirage and such things, sadbuddhi anuvritta pramana nirupana ante vichidyate. Here sadbuddhi means the sense of, there is. Sat means is. There is water. Wow, we are thirsty and now we are looking at water over there. Very soon we will drink from there. That is the sadbuddhi. Vichidyate, it gets cut. It ends. How does it happen? Pramana nirupanante. Use the right means of knowledge. Right means of knowledge, which is pratyaksha, anumana, and there are 5 pramanas in the domain of the phenomenal universe, and 1 pramana as regards Brahmajnana. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi. These five are the means of knowledge. There is a whole science, epistemology, pramana vichara, and much is said. So if you hear Swami Paramarthananda, Swami Dayananda, and so on, they go into how each pramana operates. In one of the lectures, I heard of Swami Dayananda sometime recently. I should say he was excellent. He shows how the five pramanas, pratyaksha, direct seeing or hearing or touching through the senses, anumana, inference, upamana, seeing resemblance, arthapatti, presuming on certain basis, anupalabdhi, going by the obvious absence of something, conspicuous by absence, don't we say? He says so well that all of these operate everywhere in this world. Suppose somebody has done postdoctoral in physics, mathematics. Now, last 3 weeks or one whole month, every other day, Nobel Prizes are being announced and we read in the newspaper. And Swami Dayananda makes very, very wonderful observations with due respect to all those sciences, biology or economics and so on. And their achievements are great, no one denies, but all of them operate within these five pramanas, and they cannot give to you self-knowledge. Self-knowledge that I am Brahma is of a very different kind. And what is more, connecting, that's what scholars do. When you listen to very good scholars, uh, you may not need to talk like them or you may not need to write like them, but you certainly will benefit a lot by some of their observations, by which some cobwebs in your thinking will get cleared. You are clinging to the false. You are holding on to some erroneous position, will get loosened. You will let go of that error. So, to make one more comment, Swami Dayananji shows with great skill how, as regards aparavidya, Mundakopanishad talks about paravidya and aparavidya. As regards aparavidya, these are the five pramanas, pratyaksha, anumana, and so on. And all these subjects studied in the universities, where billions and billions of dollars are spent also on research, and every now and then some groundbreaking discoveries announced, awards are given, and so on. All of them belong to the domain of aparavidya. They may, they may help us cure a disease. They may help us in some smarter communication, some travel. They may help us in restructuring, reorganizing some systems, and in countless ways. They are a blessing to humanity. We don't deny. But aparavidya, the lower knowledge, cannot bless us with liberation. So, this pramana vichara is not only of theoretical importance, but of lot of practical value too. Practical meaning for us to let go of the false. Some remarks can be very helpful. Pramana nirupana ante. When you exercise pratyaksha, anumana, and so on, and sort out the matter, you say, oh, once more, this is not water. It's an optic illusion. You understand? Then anta, ending of that wrongly taken water. You took what was at a distance to be water. It was a mistake. That water comes to an end. There is no water. It is just the sands. And because of the sun's rays bending at a certain angle, it appears that a tree over there is reflected. And generally, water reflects trees. And so we thought there is water. It is not water. Tata ime dehaha swapnamaya dehadivaccha. Ime means these bodies. Body of Bhishma, body of Drona, body of yourself, body of everybody here about whom you think they may die. These bodies, Swapnamaya Dehadi Vacha. Somewhere it is Swapnamayadi Deha. The word Adi can be after Deha or before Deha, and there are slight language differences there. What is meant? In Swapna, in dream, we find we have a certain body, or in some in magical presentation, we may find ourselves to have a certain body, and they come to an end. When we wake up, we find. Suppose one of us who always was a little sad about his not being tall enough. In his dream, he finds he is a 6-footer. Ah, but when he wakes up, that 6 feet tall body, antavantaha, comes to an end. Swapnamayadi dehavaccha antavantaha. So is the case of these bodies, physical bodies, but the shariri, the one that dwells in the shariri, the reference is to the Atma, that is Nitya. Sharirinaha, Shariravataha, Anashinaha, Aprameyasya, Atmanaha, Antavantaha iti uktaha vivekibhi. To complete the sentence, there is the verb here, ukta, uktaha. Nityasya uktaha. Uktaha bhavanti, uktaha santi is implied. Uktaha. Uktaha is, it is said. By whom? Who says this? Vivekibhi. Those vivekis, those who are able to discern. The greatest wealth you and I can have in life is right discernment, right discrimination. What to choose and what to reject. Where to really feel sad and where not to bother. Whom to opt for and whom to keep a distance from. In individuals, in organizations, in various forms of associations. The list goes very long. In investment and everything. Right? Sometimes people who are very learned also make wrong choices and suffer. And some other time, somebody who is illiterate or went only up to 4th standard in school makes such smart choices. You and I see it. Anyway, contexts are different. Nityasya anashinaha iti na punaruktam. Already Nitya has been said, but the shloka has one more word, anashinaha. Anashi is avinashi. So Shankara says that it is not repetition, because in Shastras, any repetition is regarded as a dosha, as an error or as a defect. Why Shastra? Even you and I get irritated, don't we? When over phone, somebody just repeats whatever he has said. Or somebody gives to us information which we already know. Like in an earlier class, I said, somebody says, I must tell you, the sun rose in the east this morning here. And you make a face, sun rose in the east. Does sun ever rise in the west anywhere in the world? Why do you have to say that? Don't waste my time, right? So in the Shastras, it is serious if something is unnecessarily repeated. Adi Shankaracharya says, Na punaruktihi, there is no repetition, and then we will see that Shankaracharya explains that these two words, Nitya and Anashi uh, or Avinashi, these two have two different contexts. Two kinds of dying, two kinds of changing are negated by these two. That is one thing. And we will see in the next class how Adi Shankara gives some very precious insights into that liberating vision. And his commentary of that kind arises from the word aprameya. See, prameya means what is knowable. Prama means knowledge. Prameya, what is knowable, what can be known. Aprameya, that which can never be known. You can know anything which is other than you. And how can you know yourself? In the earlier shloka, in its commentary, we saw Swatmani Kriya Virodha. My right hand cannot grasp my own right hand. With my right hand, I can hold your right hand. That is different. My own right hand cannot hold my own right hand. Swatmani Kriya Virodha. So, the pure awareness cannot know itself. Aprameya. All right, what is this matter of knowing? And that is where Bhashyakara, Sri Shankara, writes that the way self knowledge, so called self knowledge, takes place is a very unique affair. And in all other pramanas, Advaita Vedanta accepts six pramanas. In the five pramanas, which are operational in the phenomenal universe, even after knowledge takes place, the distinction between the knower and the known continues to exist. But the sixth pramana, Shabda pramana, and Shabda is Shastra, is simply extraordinary. The moment this sixth pramana operates, whenever it does, when pravritti takes place of this Shashtam pramanam, of the sixth pramana, it actually dismantles, it dismisses, it undoes the whole setup or the whole scenario of knower and known, pramata, prameya, and pramana or prama. Triputi, the knower, the known, and knowing. That is prama. The knower, the known, and the instrument of knowledge, pramana. Therefore, either you say pramata, the knower, prameya, something to be known, and prama, knowing, the act of knowing. Or you say pramata, prameya, and pramana. So there is this setting. Now, Adi Shankara makes a very, very thought provoking statement in his commentary on this very shloka in the remaining part, that this Shabda Pramana, as regards Atmajnana, dismantles this whole Pramana Vyavahara. Then what remains is just Brahman. There is no duality anymore. So that needs to be handled very delicately. We shall attempt it in the next class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay.